What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. Today I'm here to show you another video of why the war on drugs is a failure. Let's get right into the video.
When we think about policing the global heroin trade, the picture is usually of smuggling on the US southern border or international troops pulling up poppy fields in Afghanistan. However, more often than not, some of the biggest seizures in the world happen not in the US or Europe, but in the Islamic Republic of Iran. At the same time, opioid addiction is exploding across Iran, adding to the country's social and economic instability.
You know what it seems like? It seems like the more harsh you are on drug use, the war on drugs, whatever you want to call it, the more likely people are to, I guess, rebel and do that drug anyway. So, just saying.
In 2021, a viral video showing men and women openly using drugs in the nation's capital, Tehran, illustrated the scale of the problem. This is how geography, global politics, and the Islamic Republic's own attempts at prohibition have created what might be the highest rates of opioid addiction in the world. In 2017, Iranian troops and border guards seized 630 tons of opium and 39 tons of heroin. This represents around 25% of all heroin and a staggering 90% of all opium seized in the world that year.
Whoa, 90% of opioids. Why? You know what's interesting? I didn't even know that. Fun fact: that them saying that pretty much means that most of the opioids come from Iran. If they seize 90% of the world's opioids in that 1 year alone, interesting.
And this isn't unusual. Iran regularly intercepts more opioids than most other countries combined.
According to the UN, nobody has seized more opium-based drugs than police in Iran, and $4 billion of it.
Modern recreational drugs have a long and rich history in Iran. Use of cannabis and opium in this part of the world goes back basically to the dawn of recorded civilization. But in 1978 and 1979, two key events changed everything. First, there was the Islamic Revolution in Iran itself.
Revolution in Iran. A revolution that swept away all traces of the Shah's regime and ended an era. On the surface at least, it was a revolution carried out in the name of Islam.
The 1979 revolution, the Islamic Revolution, tries to purify Iran along very many different dimensions. And one of them is a return to the ban on both opium production and opium use. And so trafficking, of course, fills the void.
Then the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, which caused Afghan farmers to turn to the opium trade as a means of survival and resistance.
Now we are in the context of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The Soviets would be burning down orchards, blowing up wells, simply devastating agriculture production, the core of the economy in Afghanistan. Instead, both the rural population very robustly switched to the cultivation of opium poppy.
Afghanistan produces around 90% of the world's illicit opium. And Iran 90%. And Afghanistan share a...
Hey, it's interesting. They produce 90% of the world's opium, and they have the strictest laws on the books to for users, bro. So that goes to show you, just to my point again, the harsher you are on this shit, the worse the problem gets. And we're seeing this not only in America, we're seeing this in Europe, we're seeing this in Iran, we're seeing this in Russia, we're seeing this in a lot of countries. So, you know, maybe it's time to change the thinking to to the approach that we take on the war on drugs.
572-mile border, which makes it ideal for drug smuggling. Within Iran itself, the government enforces strict Islamic behavioral codes, limiting how different genders can mix and imposing a total ban on alcohol. Perhaps unsurprisingly, illicit drug offenses...
Hey, drop in the comment section below if you knew that that alcohol was banned in Iran. I didn't know that.
Also carry severe penalties.
More than 70% of drug seizures and confrontations with traffickers take place in the border area. The more we confront traffickers in these areas and prevent drug distribution in the country, the more beneficial it is to us.
In Iran, being caught with 30 kilos of cannabis or 5 kilos of heroin carries the death penalty. In 2015, rates of execution for drug-related crimes hit a peak of 725. Wow. All in all, 70...
Wow, see, think about that, bro. Like, they literally executing people for drug use, bro. Executing. Like, even if you smuggling drugs, you shouldn't be, like... And I know Iran is way different than the U.S., bro, but we should... I think one thing we all agree on, people shouldn't be executed publicly, by the way, for... You know, even the worst of the worst when it comes to not the drug crimes, but drug, I guess, distribution. Even if you a drug smuggler, you know, a dealer, you shouldn't be executed. Like, that is so harsh, bro. And think about it. That is, and that's what I've been trying to tell people. That is the worst punishment you could get is execution, and people still do this shit. So what is the point of, like, being so harsh on this, man? I don't even know what to say.
70% of prisoners in Iran's notoriously harsh prison system are there for drug offences. And these laws tend to fall disproportionately on minority groups, particularly the marginalised ethnic Baloch community. There have even been reports of Baloch villages where the entire male adult population has been executed on drug charges.
That's just sad, man.
Harsh punishments, including death sentences, have failed to lower drug production in Iran. The country burns about 100 tons of seized narcotics each year.
The Islamic regime came.
It said it's failed to lower the drug production, and they got the harshest laws on the books. That's insane.
To power. It initially adopted very draconian policies: imprisonment of users, no provision of treatment, and execution of drug traffickers. By 2004-5, Iran had one of the highest imprisonment rates for drug use in the world.
But this harsh regime has utterly failed to stop the spread of addiction. Iran has up to 4 million regular drug users, meaning about 2.8% of the entire population. Wow. According to UN calculations, this actually gives Iran the highest per capita rate of problematic drug use in the entire world.
Look, and think about what he said. Iran has the highest rate of drug use per capita in the world. And they also have the strictest laws on the books in the world. And they have the highest drug problem in the world. So all I'm saying is this, y'all. For those, if you're watching this, you probably most likely agree with what I'm saying. But for those of you that's not convinced, think about it. The harsher the laws get, no matter where you are in the world, the harsher the laws get, the bigger the problem of the war on drugs that you have. You have more users, you have more crime, you have more people, you have more black market sales. It only gets worse from here. The only way to solve this, and you know we've talked about this many times on this channel, is to lighten up and also allow people to do what they're gonna do. People gonna use drugs if they want to, and we've seen, like I said, by example, the places that try their hardest to eliminate it, have zero tolerance policies on this shit, have the worst problem with it.
Every city in Iran has back alleys like this one, full of desperate addicts and their dealers who sell the cheap drugs that flood across the border from Afghanistan.
Many may find it hard to believe that such a socially conservative country where booze is banned could have such a high rate of opioid use. Yet, these two forms of drug prohibition may actually be connected.
There is a complex debate, not just in Iran, but across the Middle East, about the relationship between alcohol use and drug use. Then the fact that people find it difficult to have access to alcohol, they can access alcohol illegally, is driving some people to use drugs instead. It's not simply the restrictions to alcohol, but more broadly, just severe restrictions on social fulfillment.
مردم شادی رو دوست دارن. تو جامعه ما که هیچ نوع نه تفریح وجود داره نه امکاناتی برای جوونا وجود داره. تنها تفریح جوونا این شده که جمع بشن دورم یه دو تا استکان عرق بخورن، مشروب بخورن، شراب بخورن، بزنن به دست همین. از کار ما میشه فروش شادی.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, there did seem to be a glimmer of hope in Iranian drug policy. In response to the HIV crisis, the government surprised the world by instituting more methadone programs and harm reduction initiatives. However, as the hardline government of former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad swept to power in 2005, funding for these programs declined, and the government seemed to double down on the puritanical war on drugs approach.
Iran has just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the revolution.
It's crazy. They was finally starting to see a change and get better. And then one guy comes in and just erases everything, all the progress that they've made, man. It's sickening, bro.
President Ahmadinejad is trying to return to what he sees as a pure form of Islam.
In Iran, there are still some drug treatment programs that do apply evidence-based treatments, like opioid substitution therapy. However, these suffer from chronic underfunding, and there are many other rehab facilities that appear closer to torture chambers. There are widespread reports of drug users being savagely beaten and immersed in freezing water to punish them out of addiction.
Come on, man. What are we doing, dude? Like, and when I say we, I just mean mankind, bro. We need to wake up, dog. Wake up. Well, there's a revolution needed, not just in the U.S., around the world. People need to stand up and open their eyes to the oppression that we're seeing on a large scale, man. It's beyond just the war on drugs, bro. Just politically, man. We need this time for an uprising. It's time for us to stand up, man. I think a revolution is needed, not only abroad, but even here in the United States, man, where it's relatively sane. But it's a revolution, man. And if I ever get the following, if I ever get the people behind me, man, we about to make it happen. Believe me.
Needless to say, this is not an effective form of treatment, and people often fall back into problematic drug use as soon as they're released.
Of course.
The iron law of drug prohibition is that users and dealers tend to move towards stronger and stranger drugs. Iran has been marked by a steady shift from opium to heroin, and there are now increasing reports of more crystal meth use and production.
The larger problem is simply the lack of funding for it, which will obviously affect poorer Iranians far greater than wealthier ones.
Of course.
Another universal fact of the war on drugs is corruption. In authoritarian regimes, there can be even greater scope for this corruption to take hold. In Iran, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, are an ultra-powerful paramilitary force, directly loyal to the Ayatollah.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is Iran's most elite and influential military force and has strong connections with Iran's regime.
The IRGC have grown in power over decades of Islamic rule and now control large parts of the Iranian economy. But what's true of the legitimate economy is also true of the criminal economy. And there are allegations that elements of the Revolutionary Guards themselves are deeply embedded in Iranian drug trafficking networks. There have been reports of the IRGC protecting traffickers, even as they smuggle kilos of heroin on buses taking pilgrims to Islamic holy sites.
In any country that has significant illegal economies, there is corruption of officers or institutions. So you have countries where controlling illegal economies becomes a purposeful designated source of funding for a military entity or for the regime.
Iran has experienced years of economic turmoil, and in recent months, protests have rocked the country, with women taking to the streets to resist the regime's morality police.
Since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, the Iranian regime has required all women to wear a headscarf and loose-fitting clothing.
Iran's rulers are cracking down hard. Dozens of protesters have been killed, hundreds arrested, and the internet choked off.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's beyond just drug use, man. It's bad, dude. They killing protesters and stuff, bro. What are we gonna do? We can't sit back and just watch and talk about it anymore. It's time for action. It's time to stand up. It's time to tell these people we ain't having it, bro. It's the leadership. It's disgusting. We've seen the numbers not only on this video, but the last video I did. We've seen what the solution is to this, or at least direction. We know what a step in the right direction looks like, and there's nothing being done. I don't know about y'all, but I'm passionate about mankind, all forms, all colors, all backgrounds, bro. So it's time for us to wake up, bro, because this shit is unacceptable, bro. Just saying.
And the Iranian heroin epidemic is yet another deep crisis facing the country. Iran and the US don't tend to agree on much, but perhaps in fatally mismanaging an opioid crisis, they may finally have found something in common.
Alright guys, so that's the end of the video. Drop in the comment section what you guys think below. My final thoughts is, like I said before, in this video, in my last video, the war on drugs is a failure. We need a new approach. It doesn't even have to be in the form of, hey, legalize drugs, whatever. It's just, let's try something different, man. You see the country that has the strictest laws on the books for drug users, for drug dealers, for drug smuggling, whatever it may be, has the largest problem, and they have the largest. They are the largest distributor, the largest producer, for illicit drugs. So with that said, man, I'm not about to keep y'all waiting too long. Thank y'all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.